a urological surgeon named David Wardinger, and I believe we have an image of David Wardinger, there he is. And he noticed that his patients, when they would go to Orlando to go to Disney World, would come, because he's from Michigan, they would go, and when they would come back, he noticed that some would come back with fewer kidney stones. And he's, so kidney stones affect around 1 in 10 people, and they're very expensive and it's very painful. I mean, I don't know if you guys know anybody who's had kidney stones or ever had them yourselves, but people, it's excruciating apparently. So, and he would hear these anecdotal reports from patients who had passed small kidney stones either during or immediately after visiting Disney World. And we have a couple of, these are kidney stones from his, I don't know how big they are. I don't know about a dime for scale or anything, but
yeah, I'm actually angry at this picture for not providing scale.
Yeah, I mean, what are they microscopic or are they?
They're pretty small. They're pretty small, but imagine one going through your urethra. And
oh God, that sounds horrible.
So, all right.
Yeah,
so
either way, that's incredibly painful. But if they're anywhere near as big as that picture looks, oh my God.
They're tiny, but when they can get, the bigger they are, obviously the more trouble they are, and then they get stuck, and you have to have surgery and so on and so forth. So it costs around $3.8 billion every year in treatment and extraction. So we go to the first text graphic. But let's see, for years in practice, Wardinger noticed anecdotal reports from patients who had passed small kidney stones during and immediately after visiting the Disney theme parks. It was a correlation he might not have noticed in another place, he told me. This mass migration helped bring it to my attention. The next one. But one particular gentleman really inspired Wardinger. The man rode Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disney's Magic Kingdom and then passed a small stone. Then he did it again and passed another, and then another. That was just too powerful to ignore, Wardinger said. I've been hearing these anecdotal stories for a couple of years, and then I thought, okay, there's really something here. If there were a way to make people pass stones while they were still small, Wardinger realized, the potential benefits could be enormous. So he did a little more research into talking to his patients, and he noticed that the common theme was that they had all ridden on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I haven't been to Disney World in a long time, so I don't know that ride, but it's a roller coaster there. And then, so we have another text graphic here. Wardinger used a 3D printer to create a clear silicone model of that 3-time stone patient's kidney. He then filled the kidney with stones and urine. Then he and colleague Mark Mitchell bought 2 tickets and flew to Orlando. The two held the backpack between them at kidney height to try to subject the model to the same forces that a person would experience. A stone was counted as passed if it moved from a starting location, lodged in a calyx, and fell down into a trap at the point where the kidney meets the ureters. None of the stones or fluid actually spilled out during the roller coaster ride. So they had to get permission from Disney World to do this, and funny little backstory on it is that the day they called to ask about it, the person who was in charge had recently passed a kidney stone himself, and he called the ride manager at Thunder Mountain and said, do whatever you can to help these guys because they're trying to help people with kidney stones. All right, so
boy, they really didn't have to ask permission. Just go down there and ride the goddamn thing.
They didn't have to, but they felt, but they're doing this officially as like research, so they felt they had to. And so they noticed that within just a few rides, it was obvious to them there was a huge difference in the passage rates in this little model they had, whether you sat in the front or in the rear, because in the rear car, there's a lot more whipping around. The stones passed 63.89% of the time while the kidneys were in the back of the car, whereas in the front, it was only 16.67%. So this is a potential solution to a problem that is extraordinarily costly and painful that is relatively easy, and something that people are doing anyway. So he figured he'd need a prospective clinical trial for people with real kidneys, and he said that he could, the way he would do it, he hasn't done it yet, is to take people with kidney stones and do an ultrasound before the ride and after to see if the stone moves. And also, by the way, the urine he used was his own. He used actual urine because he didn't want to use water because that might dilute the sample. He wanted to be as authentic as possible. And so then we have, let's see, yeah. So Wardinger's advice: if you know you have a stone that's smaller than 5 millimeters, riding a series of roller coasters could help you pass that stone before it gets to an obstructive size and either causes debilitating colic or requires a $10,000 procedure to try and break it up. And even once the stone is broken up by using shockwaves, tiny fragments and dust remain that need to be passed. The coaster could help with that too. And so I think is there one more text graphic? Yeah. For people who hate roller coasters, the ultimate goal would be a more clinical experience, a way to move people in a controlled environment that would help them pass stones organically. Instead of sending people to a theme park, you might go down the hall to a 3D roller coaster with a prescription for a precise pattern of pitches, yaws, and rolls designed around your particular kidney anatomy and the location of your particular stone. So that's the story, and I love stories like this because we are as a society, and our healthcare system is heavily oriented on treatment and expensive treatments because that is remunerative for the people who are involved in them. And I love it when something like this is discovered, which bypasses all of that potentially and can solve a serious problem just by doing something that people do anyway. So I thought that was why it was interesting and I wanted to bring it up.
So I also love that story for different reasons. And I already have a host of questions. My first question is, did they have to wait in line every time to go back on the ride? Okay, now we're gonna sit in the front. Now we're gonna sit in the middle. For God's sake, this is gonna take forever. Or they're like, look, these guys are doctors, sorry, but just keep them riding.
I don't know. They said that they said to the ride operator, do whatever, give them whatever they want because the guy had taken. So maybe he just let them pass each time, presumably. Although it would be a lot more time consuming if they had to wait. But also, I think if they're smart, they would go at a low traffic time of year, February.
There's a random curiosity.
But it's a legitimate question because it's super time consuming going on a roller coaster ride over and over again if you have to wait in an hour-long line every time.
Yeah. Okay. And then it's funny, at the end of the day, we're still like humans and physical entities. So you just shake us.
Yeah, we're subject to the laws of physics.
Right. Like, how are we gonna get this kidney stone? I don't know, let's shake the guy. Right.
But the way our healthcare system is set up, and I don't really blame it, no one would ever think of this.
Yeah.
For the way your medical treatment is, cut them open, go in, get it, take it out, sew them back up again. And nobody would think, let's put them in one of those G-force things at NASA and spin them around, see what happens, because we don't exhaust all the possibilities. We don't even think about all the possibilities.
So then, to me, the most important question that it answered is it more fun at the front or the back of a roller coaster? And I had no idea that you get spun around a lot more in the back.
Yeah.
Everybody always assumes the front is better because you're in the very front as it goes down. So did you guys know that the back was better?
Yeah, because
that's a known thing?
Well, like when you go up the hill and you go over at the front, you're going pretty slowly as you go over. But when you go over at the back, you're going as fast as the car in front is going when it's already, another 30 yards down.
So you guys understand physics better than I do.
I had a bad kidney stone problem.
I suck at physics. That's why I would have never ever figured that out.
Yeah, if you notice, so that ride where it goes back and forth like this.
Yeah, the Buccaneer. Remember you used to be the Buccaneer, and then
it's a pirate ship or whatever.
It was a shuttle.
It's like a dragon, all different things.
In New Jersey.
But people always want to sit on the ends because it has the most movement, and for roller coasters, people want to sit on the very end because for that same reason.
Almost everyone I know wants to sit in the front. I never heard of anyone wanting to sit in the back.
Sitting in the front is just because you're in the front.
For another reason.
I want to be in the front.
You just see everything as you're going down.
Yeah, I guess. No, on the Buccaneer / shuttle, I knew that everybody wanted to sit at that. That I knew.
Yeah, suppose they also spin around sometimes, and you're obviously going to get more action spinning on the end than you do.
Yeah. In the middle. I'll tell you a funny quick story about my experience at an adventure park, specifically at the Buccaneer, the thing that swings all the way around, right? I was like,
that's a looping shuttle. The Buccaneer doesn't go all the way around.
Oh yeah, I think you might be right. The Buccaneer actually went.
Is it Great America?
Great Adventure in New Jersey. Yeah. And the shuttle is the one that finally flipped around.
Yeah. Were you around when it burned? When there was a big fire at Great Adventure and it was like a huge scandal?
I was there. I saved 3 people. I was like Cory Booker. I rushed.
No, but you were living in New Jersey at the time. I remember because it was when we were in high school, I think.
Yeah. And
Cory Booker.
So I was in line. I don't know if I was 13, 14, but I was young, and I was scared. I'm like, man, it's gonna flip over or whatever, right? I guess it must have been the shuttle by then or something. I'm like, oh my God, and I'm nervous. Like that's the whole point. You're supposed to be nervous and scared and then I had a long time to think because we're in that fucking line forever.
Yeah.
And I talked myself into logically saying, no one dies on this thing. No one ever falls out. And by the time I got to the front of the line, I had made it uninteresting for myself. I logically convinced myself that there's no way you could fall out. So then who gives a shit?
So for me, I don't.
Although occasionally people do.
Yeah, I don't like the excessive motion. It makes me feel not good. The Buccaneer was nauseating. I hated it because it goes like this, and there's
it's a pendulum.
It's the acceleration that makes you feel sick. But the looping one, it doesn't do that. It goes at a constant velocity and it goes around and around. So it's like a merry-go-round, but you're just going upside down instead of going horizontally. You're going vertically. So that did nothing for me. But the Buccaneer made me sick. But I do have a funny story because I don't know if you guys did the same thing. But so we went to different junior high schools. 9th grade was part of junior high school. In 9th grade, we went to Great Adventure with our physics class to learn about physics. Or maybe it was 11th grade. No, it was 9th grade. It was 9th grade.
9th grade physics, huh?
We learned there was a physics component of the science class, and so we went there, and we were going on this ride called I forget what it's called, but it's the one that just drops.
Yeah,
what's
free
that
fall.
Free fall. Yeah, and it was me and these 2 other guys, and we're 14 years old. We get on, and we're getting nervous as we're getting closer and closer. It's a brand new ride. And you can hear the people screaming as free falling. So we're getting more and more nervous. So we sit down, and I was sitting in the middle, right? And they strap you in, and the thing comes over your shoulder, so you're locked in. And as you're going up, it just goes up really fast, actually. And you hear this clicking sound at each level. And all 3 of us are like, oh shit, this is really scary, right? And we're sitting like this with our hands to our side, and their hands are kind of touching a little bit, and then we let it touch a little bit more, and then eventually.
You guys are so funny. And then eventually you guys were making out.
Yeah. And then eventually we actually wound up holding hands, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then we screamed the whole way down, and then we let go. As soon as we got to the bottom, never talked about it ever again. Until this very moment, we blacked it out, and we walked away from free fall and never discussed it.
So it's 2 pieces of breaking news on tonight's Old School.
That is so funny. And remember, back then, times were way more homophobic too.
Way more homophobic.
Yeah, so that was a big deal to hold another guy's hand.
Yeah. I was in the middle. I held 2 guys' hands.
Yeah, you were super gay.
That's why nobody ever talked about it again. But you guys must have been so scared shitless that you're like, fuck the homophobia. I'm holding this guy's hand.
No, we my heart was pounding, and we're all visibly shaken. And if any one of us had said, let's not go on, the other 2 would be like, yeah, let's not do it. But we're too afraid to chicken out, so we did it, and then we're terrified the whole way up.
It's interesting, so the machismo makes you go on it, and yet but that machismo doesn't hold over to the part where you're terrified and you want to hold each other's hands.
And we screamed the whole way down.
Yeah, so real quick, similar story. We were in Turkey, and I decided I was going to go with my sister, who's 4 years older, and her friends on a boat. I really wanted to hang out with the older kids, and then they were rowed out to a little cliff that juts over the water, and then they were jumping off the cliff. And that was super fun, and I wanted to be with the cool kids, and so I climbed on the cliff and then realized, oh my God, this is really fucking scary, because this is not Great Adventure. This is the middle of Turkey, and there's giant rocks at the bottom of the water. So if you jump in the wrong place, you could hit the rocks, right? And this cliff was, from what I remember from being a kid, was pretty fucking high.
But this is a place where people go to jump off the rocks into the water. It's not like you discovered it and you're gonna pioneer this.
No, but I did not know that. So I had never heard of it before. We rowed out, and they're like, here's this cliff, cool, let's jump off of it, right? But they had all jumped off of it already. I was the last one. And I was like, I can't, and I was up there for, I don't know if it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but I was so scared.
I wish Steve was here to hold my hand.
That's right, yeah.
I would hold your hand and jump together.
Let's do it. And then I thought about climbing back down, but it was a really jagged thing, and climbing back down was way more dangerous. So I'm stuck. And finally, they're like, they got bored, and they're like, kid, we're gonna leave you behind.
We're going home.
Yeah, and of course they weren't going to, but they did that to get me to jump, but I didn't know that. And they're going, I'm like, oh no, they're leaving, I don't know how to get back home, oh my God, right? And again, I did the logic thing. I was like, well, I don't have a choice. I definitely cannot walk back down, and they are definitely leaving. That only leaves me one option, which is to jump. And if I jump and I die, well, then I guess that's what's going to happen. So I don't, since I no longer have a choice, yes, I'm still scared, but I must proceed and hence will. And I did.
But you didn't go back up and jump again.
Did you scream?
No.
Did you cry? Did you hold someone's hand?
No, I died.
But it's super exhilarating actually doing that. But the thing is, like, you go and you stand up on like the high dive from like Olympic divers where they dive off of, and it's 10 meters, and it's a long way down into that pool.
It's terrifying.
And like just even jumping off into the water is, and you think about these people doing these flips and spins and half twist and a gainer and whatever that is, and and then they go in with no splash. It's pretty incredible. I mean, like just even stepping off into the water.
Except for the Filipino team, remember that team?
Oh yeah.
They were awesomely bad.
They were terrible. They'd flop.
Listen, but good for them that they were not scared to even at least go off. I mean, they tried. I mean,
that was
no,
fantastic.
but actually, I don't agree with you on that, Malcolm, because I view that like I view the magic tricks. Like you guys just practice that. Yeah, if you practice something long enough, you can go blah, 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 gainer, no splash. Like if you did it out of nowhere, I'd be like, man, that guy's got some fucking balls. No, if you even just dove in head first off that board, I would give you 1,000 times more credit than Greg Louganis doing what he does every day.
Yeah, so
although that's the one guy who actually hit his head.
Yeah, right. So this past summer we vacationed in Italy, and one of the places we went to is Cinque Terre, which was my favorite place. It's a series of 5 towns. The second town is called Manarola, and on that town, when you walk down to, it's a tiny little walk. You walk there, there's a beachhead, and there's a little bit of a cove. And in that cove is a rock, and people are jumping off the rock into the water. And I was like, it doesn't look that high. So,
it doesn't from when you're down below.
Right, so I was eating gelato, watching people jump, and I'm like, it's not a big deal. So then my kids wanna go swimming, I said, go for it. So I swim, and I climb on the rock also. And I go, like, not even to the top, but halfway, I look down like, oh my God, that's a terrifying distance. There's no way I'm gonna jump, right? So I walked down even further, so I was like a quarter of the way, and I jumped from there, and I thought I was being brave. And I saw the pictures, I was like, oh my God, that's like 6 feet. It's not brave at all. And I look terrible, like flabby and awful. Meanwhile, my second girl, she's a swimmer and she's very good, and she was jumping off from a much higher point. I forbade her. I was like, you can't do it. You're gonna die. There's no hospitals nearby. Well, I can't have you bleeding out. You're not jumping. But the point is, it's so much scarier when you're actually on the rock looking down than when you're on land just looking. It's like, it looks like it's nothing. Yeah.
That's a metaphor for life.
I did that once in this place in Vermont. I went in college. I went to Vermont with a friend of mine, and we went out to this gorge where you could, and the rock, the outcropping that you jumped into this river was probably maybe 40 feet. And it was scary, but I was there with my friend, a guy friend, and so we were macho and you couldn't chicken out. And so we were, sort of high-fiving.
Most macho guys hold hands and scream together.
We were complimenting each other, like, oh yeah, we're, and then some locals showed up. And they were jumping off much higher and doing like flips and all this crazy stuff. We're like, oh my God, these guys are nuts. Because this is just a river, where it's relatively wide, but it's, and if you jump in the wrong place, you're right, you'll hit a rock. I mean, you're not gonna just jump to the right, but
you could slip. I mean, things could go wrong.
Yeah, but then these local kids were just, they probably didn't have much to live for, I assume, because what they were doing was nuts.
Yeah.
But then they weren't holding hands like we were.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the doctor for a second, because I love that doctor, because one of my theses.
Where is he? Let's bring him back. Can we see the doctor again?
Wardinger, was it?
It was I've forgotten already.
Yeah,
Wardinger, yes, there he is. There's David.
Yeah, because Steve knows this. The world is solvable, right? And I love people who bother to solve it. Like most doctors, most people just go through life like, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, everybody comes back from Orlando and passes stone. I don't give a shit.
Well, you wouldn't know.
They don't even notice.
Yeah.
But Dr. Wardinger, he cares about life. He's intellectually curious. He notices things. He's like, wait a minute. and then he goes and tests it, and that's how we learn. That's how we learn as a species.
But the problem is there's no money in this. There's no money in that solution, which is why it probably won't become widespread.
No, but Dr. Wardinger, that's how he became iconic. So the top 20 iconic characters.
All right,
but that goes to, by the way, that's right. So guys who
Dr. Wardinger or Stacy Q.
Or
Two of Hearts.
Howard Jones. So he is not going to be iconic for showing Marilyn Monroe's tits, at least. Hugh Hefner is iconic, and that is how society chooses to not reward the things that are more important.
I don't know. This guy got written up in the Atlantic. I talked about on Old School. It's
hey, he made it.
He made it.
He might now do the same
saluted.
Old School as Hugh Hefner.
Yeah. Not too shabby, Dr. Wardinger.
But I love people who figure those things out. These, they, and admittedly, you could say it was just a set of circumstances where he happened to be and where he was going to observe this, and if he had been a doctor somewhere else or had, whatever, where he didn't have a lot of patients who happened to go to, socioeconomic status, who happened to be going to Disney World and coming back, and so on and so forth. But he put two things together that maybe one day we'll be like, of course we know that exerting certain number, 2 G's on the body will break up kidney stones. Of course, obviously that makes sense.
Well, at that point though, it'll be known as the Wardinger hypothesis.
Yeah. Put them in the Wardinger machine, and get those kidney stones taken care of. But
it's also great because it's like the home remedies at work.
Yeah.
And every culture has all these theories about if you just do this, this malady goes away, and most of them are bullshit, of course, but some are real, and sometimes we don't give enough credence to them. So
right, that's why Steve still eats tiger penis.
It's just so delicious.
It's elephant seal penis.
Oh, I see.
So
when you were growing up, what did people tell you, or what did you do to get rid of hiccups?
Oh, shoot, I remember.
My mom would. Okay, so my mom, I don't know if this is like an old traditional Korean thing or something that she made up. I think she made it up. So she would take a cup like this, and then she would take a chopstick and put it this way, another chopstick this way. So there's 4 parts. And she said I would have to drink from each part, and then it'll make my hiccup go away.
Wow, that's a good one. I never heard that one before.
And that
obviously didn't exist in a lot of other parts because we didn't have chopsticks.
Yeah.
Or sticks, really.
You know what? It worked, but I think it worked largely because I had to drink 4 times.
Or maybe it's the power of suggestion. I remember as a kid growing up, I had some teacher or whatever who said if you drink the water from the back side of the cup, like you drink it like that will get rid of hiccups, and it would work. Just because I think if you believe it.
Oh, I have. You know what? I don't think I've ever told this story in the history of the Young Turks, and this is a near miraculous story, and it'll be nice to end on this. Okay, and so. And yes, I had something else that we did holding up. I don't remember what it was, but yes. And what is it? Why don't I get hiccups anymore? Do kids get more hiccups? Is that?
No, I still get hiccups.
Oh,
sometimes.
Okay.
I got them a couple days ago.
I haven't gotten a hiccup in I don't think in decades.
Hiccups are why, if you need any evidence that God doesn't exist, hiccups are enough.
Well, rest your case.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I mean, why would God give you hiccups? What is the point of hiccups? There's no point to hiccups.
Why would God give you anything? What is the point to leprosy?
But
why would God give you herpes? Why would he do it? Why would he do that to your penis? Okay, or to your vagina? Okay, so when I was growing up, I wound up getting warts on my hands. So did you guys ever have warts?
I had a wart on my leg, right by my knee. I can't even tell you what I did. It's the stupidest thing. I decided it'd be really smart. I didn't know it was a wart. I was like, what is this thing? I kept picking at it, and it kept coming back. So then one time I was like, this is kind of like dead skin. Maybe I should just cut it off. So I took a knife, I just cut it. And you know what it did? It fucking bled everywhere. It was a giant mess, and it made the wart come back. And now I had 2 warts, and then it spread, and I got a wart on my finger that I was picking it with, and it went underneath my fingernail bed. You know how painful that is to have a wart underneath. So not to get it like freezed off with like liquid nitrogen. It was awful, but eventually it worked. It's gone. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sure you had a better solution than that.
So liquid nitrogen, that's what you did. And is warts a thing you get when you're younger?
I mean, I knew people who had warts on their hands, but I got like 1 wart once on my arm in high school.
Did you kiss a toad?
No, but I blame that on why I didn't get any girls.
Yeah,
I had one
assure
wart on
you
my
that
arm.
was not it. So what did you do to get rid of it?
Compound W. There's something they sell, and I put it on there, and eventually it went away. It took a while.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. The liquid nitrogen did not work. Okay, and I had to go to this is when I was in law school. I went to the student center, and they would do that for me. It was so unbelievably painful whenever it got done. And then I graduated. The problem was still there. Then I got Compound W for like $2 at CVS. It worked within a month. Gone.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. We didn't have Compound W in Turkey, and although I was a little bit older, I had gone back in the summer, and my mom said, "Oh, your friend's grandmother, she's good with this. She reads over it, and it makes it go away." Now, we were not particularly religious, but I was like, okay, nothing wrong with trying, because it had started with, I remember now, it was on my pinky and it got bigger and bigger, and then I was like, okay, but then it started spreading, and then I got another one, and then shit, they're like now kind of all over my hands. It wasn't monstrous.
Both hands or just one?
I think both, but I don't remember. I remember one, it was pretty bad.
It's not gonna help you socially.
Yeah. It was just weird. I didn't understand. Anyway, and I remember we went out on her balcony and she read over it. They call it read over it. She ran some sort of Quranic passage, but it doesn't matter at all. It could have been anything. She could have read Lord of the Rings over it, right? And then she blew on it, all right? And I was like, yeah, okay, great. This will never work, right? And they were gone.
What, like
not overnight, not immediately, right? It wasn't like, oh my God, where'd they go? It wasn't magic, right? That would have been an amazing magic trick. But in a sense, it is, because no, they went away right away. It was not like 3 months later. Oh, was it the reading?
Yeah.
It was not like a year and a half later, and oh yeah, it was the reading. No. She did it, and I don't remember if it was a day, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it was, but it was gone.
But
you didn't
buy it. You thought this is not gonna work in a million years.
No, I remember being incredibly neutral to it. Meaning like, I know I'm supposed to believe for it to work or something like that, but I don't quite believe. I don't know, I'll try to stay neutral, right? So I assume that it's the power of suggestion, but that's like, in a sense, more amazing than if it's God. God's like a magic trick. Okay, then there's a God. Okay, yeah. I got the magic trick. It's not that interesting. The power of suggestion making that go away that's an amazing magic.
It could also just be coincidence.
It could, but for all of them to go away right away, that is a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah, coincidences happen.
They happen.
Sure, and I don't know. Do warts just go away?
Yeah.
They do. Yeah, maybe it was, but it would be still. Monk told me that there are no coincidences. That's if Monk has taught me anything, it's that.
Yeah. Actually, I want to leave the reason I brought hiccups up, because I'll leave the audience with a little tip, and this is because my wife's a teacher. And what she would use, because when a kid gets hiccups in a classroom, it disrupts the class. I mean, you can't do anything because everyone's listening for the thing. You're talking and making a lecture, and everyone goes, ah, so it's terrible. So what she would do, and I learned this from my uncle actually, is she kept $1 in her desk. She would go take it out. She would walk up to the kid's desk and slap it on the desk and say, "I will let you have this $1 if you can hiccup one more time." And it worked every time. Kids never hiccuped again. Every time she did it, it would work, and the kid never. I mean, everybody in the class, everybody in the class is like because normally with hiccups you want them to go away, but now the kid's like, oh, I gotta produce another hiccup, and it just wait, and she'd be like, I didn't think so.
That's an awesome trick. I love tricks like that. Wait, I gotta ask one super last thing about Dr. Wartager. So how do you know?
I give me the whole article.
No, hold on. How do you know if you have a small kidney stone already? Because isn't the kidney stone the problem when it's come through your dick?
I think kidney stones actually they go the kidney leads to the bladder. The bladder leads out through the urethra. The ureter is between the kidney and the bladder, and if you can get the kidney stone into your bladder, that's usually okay. You can get it out, but it's when it gets, and I'm not a doctor. But when it gets lodged between the kidney and the bladder, that's when it's super painful and it can be dangerous and so on and so forth.
So and don't leave it there because it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Potentially.
And then they're going to have to cut you open.
Right.
Okay. So the point is, if you feel a pain there and you think it might be a kidney stone, immediately get on a roller coaster.
Or if you're inclined toward them, if you get them, some people pass them, they don't even notice, and then they'll pee one out and they're like, oh, what the hell is that? And some people know they have it, it's a little discomfort, but eventually it goes away, because they do work their way through and out. But sometimes when they get lodged, when they're big enough and they get lodged, and that's a real problem, and that's when they have the surgery. So I think and it gets worse. There are some situations where they feel it, and there might be something they can do about it, but they don't do anything. They don't go to the doctor, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And then by the time they go to the doctor, they have to have surgery because it's too late. So if you're a kind of person who is inclined towards kidney stones, you might just make a point to go on roller coasters every few months, just for the hell of it.
No, because I don't want anybody cutting it open. So if I even feel a tinge, I'm on a roller coaster the next day.
In the back.
Yeah, in the back.
Because even if you hate roller coasters, you're gonna hate having surgery to have a kidney stone removed even more.
I don't like the crowds and the waiting and the Disneyland and all that shit. I'll go through all that to make sure I get in the.
Well, so what you do is you call and say you're Dr. Wardinger, and
they're like, ooh, the esteemed Dr. Wardinger's coming back.
Yeah, I need to be able to ride over and over again to conduct some tests.